Hey, gun people, part 2 of Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby and all the poor 15 women that waited 25 years to report him. So on the last one, I kind of stopped on, you want to get all the witnesses and do different interviews. Obviously, you want to get all the chauffeurs that were driving them around. You want to know if they have anything, if there was women that complained, if there's any of the women that looked like when they left, if they were disheveled. I mean, that's not going to prove a whole bunch, but if they're all sick when they leave, if you got a chauffeur that says, yeah, I've transported at least 15 women and every one of them always threw up in the car, it was common. That's going to be a problem. A big question is going to be, why did no one report it? Of course, they're going to say power, fear, and, you know, they're going to use that as an excuse on why they didn't report it. Obviously, every victim's going to have to be interviewed, and who they told, why they didn't tell, who did they mention it, did they mention it to anybody, did they go to the doctor? Did they go to the doctor for a disease or for whatever? I mean, if some guy raped me, I'd probably be going to get a blood test. Shit, I got blood tests when I was arresting somebody and they bit me or scratched me. I'd be getting blood tests. I would be documenting that happened. So if I was raped, I think I'd be going to making sure I don't have, you know, STDs or something. He didn't transfer something to me. So did they do that? If they didn't, why? Well, because he's Bill Cosby, and why would they think, if a guy's raping you, it's a common conclusion, he's probably raping another woman, he might have a disease, I'd go get checked. So as a defense, if I could say none of these women went to the doctor and got checked, that's a clue. That goes back to credibility. Can they discuss, can they describe his penis? They all need to sit down and say, hey, can you describe his penis? If 4 say he's circumcised and 5 say he's not, then they'll get a court order for him to show his penis. They'll take a picture and say which ones are right and which ones are wrong. Obviously, the ones that are wrong are done. Their credibility is completely gone. So if they can't describe his penis, and hopefully he doesn't have pictures of his penis out there so everybody knows, but on rape victims, they're going to know if the guy was circumcised or not. And most of them are saying they gave him oral sex, so they're going to know. If they can't describe that, their credibility goes down further. If they guess right, I mean, it's only 50%. You know, if they guess right, then he's got issues. No DNA and no physical evidence, a big problem for the prosecution. I mean, there's no way for me to go back to search his house and find pills, see if he was buying pills, get his prescriptions. I mean, Quaaludes is an illegal drug. I mean, you might be able to get a prescription, a different type of Quaalude, but the blue pill seems to be the common denominator. All these women are talking about the blue pill, the blue pill. So whatever the blue pill was back then, they're going to have to check all the doctors had, prescriptions, where he bought it, if he ordered it, if he's buying an amount, does he use it, did he use it? I mean, that's going to be a part of the issue, is what the hell was that blue pill that all these women keep talking about. If anybody helped him, these, you know, there has to be either a housekeeper, somebody had to be there. If he's driving them around a Rolls Royce, I'm sure he had somebody working in the house, 1 or 2 housekeepers. Did they feed him? Did they, you know, all these witnesses need to be contacted and interviewed. And if they're still working for him, that's going to be a problem, because they're not going to lose their job. If they're ex-employees, then they may have a beef against him, so they may just make something up to hurt him. So that's going to be an issue on their credibility. Let's see. Did anybody go to the doc for a drug test? I mean, if I thought I was drugged, to me, next morning, I'm going to get a blood test to see what drugs are in my system. I mean, think about it. You're drugged. You're saying this guy had sex with you. You don't want to tell anybody. I can go to the doctor and go, you know what? I think somebody slipped something in my drink last night. I'd like a drug test, and I want to see if there's any drugs in my system. And they pull a drug test. So you would know. To me, that's reasonable. Rick, these poor women victim couldn't be thinking of that, and it's not real. You know what? If none of them went to the doctor for a drug test, I got a problem with that. Their credibility goes down. I know everybody's going to be like, you're picking on the women, they're the victim, it's never the victim's fault. Whatever. Obviously, it's too late, you can't get phone records. I mean, cell phones weren't prevalent back then, and phone records back then are probably gone. You can't get, you know, you just can't prove a whole bunch when somebody waits 30 years. So for a prosecutor to file this case, I gotta think he's got a smoking gun somewhere. Obviously, all of Bill's friends and his ex-friends, anybody he was friends with or anybody he's not friends with, they need to be interviewed. What do you think? They already did on the show, one of the guys that worked on the cast said, you know what, there was always something funny. And nobody wanted to be in the room with him, or we didn't have as many people volunteering for the show. So he goes, I always thought there was something going on. And some woman told him that Bill did it to her. So he's a good, what I call a third party, a non-biased witness that can corroborate someone's statement. Not only did it happen, and I'm telling you this now, I told him when it happened and he believed me. So that's going to be issues. Issues for Bill. Obviously, is there, are they all coming after the money? Why did the victims wait so long? In 2005, there was a woman that said she took 3 blue pills that he gave her. She didn't say he forced them. She said he gave them to her, she took them and drank. And didn't remember anything, woke up, he was shoving his penis in his mouth and then left. Now she sued him and went after him civilly. Now this is going to hurt Bill. In this case, Bill signed and when she did this, like 13 other victims came out and said, I'll testify. So they took depositions from these 13 women about this case. Well, when you start taking deposition and a case is going to deposition and all of a sudden it settles, that's a clue. Bill settled this case. Not only did he settle it, he got the court to seal the records so it's a confidentiality on how much he paid her. Now the thing with civil settlements and criminal is the DA can override and break that civil. If I get a civil agreement that's sealed, but I'm doing a criminal case, and that information in that sealed area can help my case, I can get my judge to override the civil judge that sealed that record. So I'm sure the prosecution has either already done that. If they haven't unsealed it, they've at least got a warrant to go read it and see if it's got information that's pertinent to the case. And if it is, which I think it is, if he settled and he wanted a confidentiality, and also in that deposition they released some of it that said Bill Cosby admitted to giving them drugs and giving them alcohol. Well, I mean, I've given women alcohol, I've never given them drugs, maybe an aspirin, but I've given women alcohol. That doesn't make me a rapist. So, I mean, the fact that he gave it to him, you're still going to have to prove, she's going to have to prove her state of mind, and this isn't a civil case. In a civil trial, the judge has to believe one party more than the other. Remember, it's preponderance of the evidence. All I have to do is tip the scales 49 to 51%. So if the judge says, you know what, I kind of believe the woman more than Bill, she wins. If he says, I kind of believe Bill a little more than woman, Bill wins. In a criminal trial, much higher burden, above a moral certainty, above a reasonable doubt, no reasonable doubt. You got to convince 12 jurors if he takes a jury, which he probably will. So, I mean, much higher case. So it can't just be my word against yours. That's not going to fly in a criminal case. It's just not going to work. You've got to have some other evidence. And the other evidence they're going to have, corroborating witnesses, multiple people telling the same story, the civil trial, the fact that he pled the civil trial. Whatever he said in his deposition, we'll be able to say that he said that, and he's going to either have to get on the stand and say he lied in deposition or he's lying now. And if they get him in one lie, his credibility goes down. So that civil trial is going to be the biggest pain in his butt. And that, as a prosecutor, that's what I'd be going after. He cut a deal and he did it. In another interview they asked Bill, hey, this woman's, what do you say about all these women that are accusing you? And he goes, hey, we don't talk about that, and I'd appreciate it if you cut this out of the interview because I don't even want it brought up. I don't know about that. That doesn't look too great. I mean, I can understand that he's going to say, hey, on advice of counsel, I was told not to answer any questions, not to approach a subject, and I don't want to bring it up in the limelight any more than it is because I got all these women running around. Now, 13 women have filed, or 7 different women have filed a defamation suit against him in civil court, saying he defamed them by saying he's lying. He in turn filed a defamation suit against them, saying they're lying. So now who's going to be able to prove who's lying? Remember, we're in civil trial. One of them has to tip the scales in their favor. So, I mean, the fact that the women waited 25 years to say this, the scales are tipped in his favor already. Because they're like, hey, you got a lot to overcome. We're not starting out as equal here. If we were starting out as equal, you'd have filed a report or told somebody. You waited 25 years, Bill's on top on this one. Because you didn't file a police report, you didn't do anything that's reasonable, you didn't go to the doctor, you don't have any medical. And then, let's see. Admit, worse. Bill, remember, okay. Yeah, and the problem that the prosecution is going to have is Bill's going to be able to say, you know what? That was 25, 30 years ago. You know how many people I met and how many people I slept with and how many women were chasing me and how many women I had in my house that I may have slept with. He goes, I don't remember those nights. He goes, if I drugged somebody, I'd probably remember it. If I raped somebody, he goes, I don't remember half these women. Now, this is going to be a very tough case for the prosecution, and the only reason I can see why he's filing, because remember, when a prosecutor files a court, now this is going to be a big time, this prosecutor wants his name in the paper, he's going to be protecting women's right, he's going to be able to play this card, I fought for women even though I knew I couldn't win, and he'll be playing the big, I'm a great woman, lover, whatever, and he'll be bullshitting everybody into saying I charged him when I knew I couldn't win. But normally, for a prosecutor to file a criminal case, it's a lot lower standard for a cop to arrest. For me to arrest somebody, I just got to have probable cause that a crime committed and this guy did it. So I can arrest him. The DA, before they charge them, has to be able to pass a double standard saying, do I have a likelihood of getting a conviction if I take this to trial? If I don't want to waste taxpayer money, I don't want to waste juror time, I don't want to fill up a court, and I don't want to waste everybody's time and play a game on a case I know that I can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So why would a DA take this case? Political, headlines, or he's got a smoking gun, he's seen something in this document. This is going to be an interesting case to follow. There'll be a lot of ins and outs. I don't know if they'll be in the papers and stuff, but legal-wise, this is going to have some serious questions. But I just figured I'd give you my perspective on, if I was an investigator, kind of where I'd be going on this and where the prosecution is going to be going and the difficulties of this case. All right? Hope that helps on Bill Cosby, giving out free happy pills. We'll end it there.